Hi, I'm Shane, and here on TikTok, I just finished reading my high school diary entries 35 years to the day they were written. My plan is to post these each week on either Friday or Saturday, so this entry is 11 days worth. I think normally it will be 6 or 7, depending how that shakes out. So graduation was May 26th. On May 27th of 1990, I went to Hannah's sister's baby's christening and reported that Hannah's mom looked great. I went to a party with Wendy and Molly, and there was a guy there that looked like Dean, except I think I said he was older and blonder. Then that night, we watched the 15th anniversary special for Saturday Night Live, which we just watched the 50th a couple of months ago, I think, so that's a little cool. And then I note that Molly is treating her new boyfriend, Greg, like garbage. On May 28th, I report that Dean called last night while I was at the party, so I wasn't home, but I note that I really feel like there is a psychic connection between the two of us. At this point, Wendy and Molly and I were helping my mom with my brother's 8th grade play. So on this day, Wendy and I went to play rehearsal and helped the kids learn their dance numbers. I worked that day at Wendy's from 3 to 10, and I made $37 in tips, and I note that I still hate the manager, Bruce. Here's a quote from that day. And of course, this quote is about manager Bruce, not my Uncle Bruce, whose car I totaled and who was incredibly kind to me. Bruce is very ignorant and rude. He thinks he is so fucking awesome because he is a superior figure. This seems quite justified until one recalls the framework in which he is superior. It's a damn Denny's. I get home that night and I'm happy to have a message that Ryan called. May 29th was a Tuesday, and I went shopping with Wendy, and I bought a bikini, quote, Lord help me. I am trying to find someone to take my work shift at Denny's on Friday night and having a very hard time finding a sub. Wendy and I go to rent a movie, and I pick a movie called How I Got Into College. And then this from the entry. The movie was my choice, and Wendy was ripping on it and me. So, to piss me off, on the way to Molly's, she went exactly the speed limit, as in 25 miles an hour. She said, wow, we're going so slow, you could probably run faster. I made a move for the door, and she nodded, so I got out and began running. Of course, she whizzed past me. When I got in, all we could do was laugh. Later in the entry, I note that the movie was pretty funny. On May 30th, Mom and Andy got a flat tire at 119th and Pulaski, so I went to pick them up. At work, I start giving attitude to Bruce, and that makes me feel better. And I get a sub to cover my shift on Friday. This from the entry. I only made $14. This is because the fucking stooge managers scheduled 3 girls for a Wednesday night. I have waited on so many interesting people. I may write a book, The Denny's Chronicles. One lady looked and talked a little bit like my Grandma Swy. On Wednesday, May 31st, I call my mom from Wendy's house and she seems upset. My brother Mark and 2 of his friends got caught throwing wet toilet paper in the school bathroom. They may be suspended, banned from dinner dance, and not allowed to graduate with their class. However, they will probably just have to clean up after the dinner dance. Andy and I are excited to find some cicadas. Then this from the entry. I called Dean. He seems to be doing okay. He did, however, start listening to The One I Love by REM while we talked. I wouldn't put it past him to have really planned that. That night, Andy, Mark, and I rent Major League. On June 1st, Wendy and I are helping my mom at 8th grade play practice, and my mom, quote, gets kind of nutty, end quote. Then this from the entry. Afterwards, Wendy and I drove about 8 8th graders to Burger King. Then we went to Molly's. We picked up her and her poodle, Bocce. We took them to 135th and Cicero so Bocce could have sex. Dean asks me to come and watch him play baseball, and I am afraid he thinks I want to get back together. That night is the 8th grade show, and it goes very well. Wendy and I stay for the dance, and during the mother-son dance, we dance with 2 of the boys whose mothers had to leave early. We night swim over at Molly's, and she says I look good in my new bikini, and I am glad. Then we all go over to Nadia's to watch the VHS of the 8th grade play that happened earlier that very evening. On June 6th, I spend a short time at Wendy's family graduation party before I have to go and work my shift at Denny's. I am scheduled 2 to 9. They ask me to stay until 11, and I don't end up getting home until 1:15. This from the entry. The thing about work is, I really like the other girls, the busboys, the cooks, etc. And I like the money. I made $55. I hate the management and the hours and how they expect every employee to worship Denny. On June 3rd at noon is Mark's graduation. I sing a song in the ceremony called Deep Peace, and Mark gets a scholarship for high school. I make $40 that night at Denny's, and Martin and Betty and that friend group comes in to visit me at work. Then this quote from the entry. Something happened at work that is causing me great, but seemingly needless anxiety. I was pouring ketchup from one glass bottle into another, and one chipped. I poured it all into the other bottle. Now I am having visions of some child eating a hamburger with ketchup and choking on a piece of glass. It seems silly, but maybe possible. On June 4th, I go to Pier 1 with Wendy and I buy a dress. I don't remember them having clothes. It is 55 degrees and I lay out. I watch Say Anything twice, once alone and once with Mom. I want a relationship. I miss Dean. I want Ryan. On June 5th, Wendy and I go up to our high school and check the callback list for summer theater. I did not audition for this show because I knew I would be out of town on performance weekend. We go and rent West Side Story, which was the musical for which Wendy was auditioning, and we watch it. I go up to auditions that night to visit people and see friends. And Finn is there. This from the entry. Finn was there. Whenever I see him, we joke about all the good old days. It's odd. He has changed so much. That night, I talked to Ryan, and then I talked to Siobhan to tell her that I will not be going with her to the University of Wisconsin at Madison, but I will be going to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. On June 6th, my car dies at TCBY. However, my theater teacher, Mrs. Harrigan, and her daughter, who was a child at the time, but 2 other grown women, are also there, and they help me push my car to safety. The West Side Story cast list goes up. Again, I didn't audition because I was going to be out of town for the weekend of the shows. But Wendy has been cast as Anybody's, Molly as a main jet girl, and Molly's brother Giovanni as one of the jets. I note that the show looks really good and that given the cast, it's probably going to be excellent. My friends come to visit me again at Denny's, and I make $30 in 5 hours. This entry ends by noting that I have court tomorrow, June 7th, 1990, for the crash. So that's this week in 1990. I'll see you at some point with a couple of updates this week and then another event roundup about a week from now. Thanks, y'all. Take care.